And welcome to Conscious Living. I'm Marc Caron, and today's another beautiful day here in the Vancouver Lower Mainland. I'm here with my good friend, partner in production, and co-host Michael Kraus. And really, I want to thank Michael for referring the guest that we have today. It's going to be a fantastic conversation because we are going to be talking about finding your purpose and really living a purpose-based life. Our guest today is reality hacker and future architect Zenka Caro, who is on a mission to upgrade human consciousness. She's the founder of LightNet and the Holomovement Purpose Lab, where she uses group intelligence, citizen science, and tech experiments to map how we break free from the old script and step into purpose, break addictions, bend spoons with our minds, and even levitate. I want to go deep on that one. Zenka plays at the edge of science and spirit, designing tools and experiences that activate coherence, synchronicity, and Jedi level intuition. Who doesn't like the Jedi, right? She's an expert in augmented reality, telekinesis, beyond the veil contact using technology, remote viewing, and consciousness research. Her work helps people remember who they are, why they're here, and what happens when we make the impossible possible. Welcome to Conscious Living, Zenka. Pleasure to have you here today.
Yeah, thanks so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
thank you, thank you. And I had the pleasure of being in a meeting or Zoom room with you a couple of weeks ago, and I've known you for many years, and I had goosebumps, and hearing your work and your wisdom and your knowledge and your beautiful being, and I was mesmerized by what you're doing, and so I called up Mark and I said, Mark, we have to have her on the show. She is so entertaining and so wise, and so welcome. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for being here, and welcome to Vancouver.
Thank you so much.
Virtually. And again, once again, Michael, thank you for the referral. You know, you're always welcome to refer anyone. I trust your judgment, and you and I are brothers from another mother, so it's always fantastic to diversify our guests and bring in. Certainly, just in your bio, Zenka, there's so much, and because we only have about 50 minutes here, I want to focus on what we're talking about. Finding your purpose and living a purpose-based life. And there's so much more. Maybe we'll come back and do a couple of more shows and programs because there's so much we can unpack there. But maybe first we can start by telling us a little bit about your story, who you are, and how you got into the role of the mission and purpose-based life you're living today.
Yeah, thank you so much. My life was good before, but now it's miraculous and amazing. And I text my friend today, please pinch me. I can't believe it's all happening. And it's interesting because this is really what's possible for all of us, but we get to have this conversation with our soul, basically. And once we do, we cross a line. I started that conversation after I had a Reiki a treatment on me. I didn't even know what Reiki was, and I saw reality differently. And I decided to start a nonprofit that focused on how reality actually works. And I started out with spoon bending because my nonprofit makes the impossible possible. We're a community that does that. So, of course, I went straight toward the really impossible matrix level breaking reality type of things like levitation and spoon bending. And I learned a lot. I taught hundreds and hundreds of people how to bend spoons. And I started to realize a pattern, and we built software to study the pattern. And then we looked at other statistics that everyone was facing. And I read a book that said that only 5% know why they're here. Actually, 10% know why they're here, but only 5% are actually living it. And I read another statistic that said 75% of the world on their deathbed regrets living the life others expected of them.
Wow.
And I said, oh, this feels impossible because something we're doing wrong that only 5% make it over here. And they are fascinating people. I'm always fascinated to meet someone that's really in their dharma, right? That's really doing what they're happy doing and they're meant to be doing in a way. So I set out to study this and figure out what was going on. And of course, naturally, LightNet style, we went and found 100 people that were these people, the Bruce Liptons, Lynn McTaggarts, all these people. We sat them down and we said, what did you do? What happened? And what we found was not what I expected, but it was a pattern. And that's what we're publishing right now and sharing right now is this commonality. And that's, I think, what Michael was saying. It just ran chills down his spine, because there's something when truth is spoken. And this is a truth that I wouldn't have gotten to if I hadn't studied and analyzed all these 100 people, right? They hold the truth. We hold the truth together.
Wow, beautifully said. And, those are some interesting numbers. And I like what you're talking about, when people like say on their deathbed, nobody ever says I should have worked more. It's usually about relationships and family and things. And it reminds me of something one of my mentors talks about all the time in terms of that future progression and picturing your life, that rocking chair test when you're sitting on the porch, taking in a summer evening or whatever. It's like, what do you regret, or what did you do, or that whole thing, regretting not doing all the things you felt called to do, but you don't do it for whatever reason. And I think it's a really important test it, not wait till you're old in a rocking chair on your porch, and to, like you say, start doing it. And just the statistic of 10% no but only 5% get to do is a whole nother pathway of what's the difference for people who know and then the people who do. So to me, that's very, very, very interesting. So maybe we can start kind of going down that road and see, how does one? I'll start by saying, I've always believed, as I started doing the work, 30 plus years ago, my purpose is to be of service and to serve others in a good way. Yet now, what does that look like? And as I kind of refined it, I kept it somewhat vague, yet simple to fulfill, so that my life wouldn't be like I didn't have too many steps in the recipe, where my real purpose is to be an inspiration to others while living a life of growth and contribution and having fun doing it, is really how I keep it simple. Now I do that in many ways. Part is this podcast and this radio show that we do, and so it's something that's important to me to also not overcomplicate it.
Yeah, we think of our purpose as being our job or something like that, but your purpose is your core essence. There is nobody like you. And I tell you, this lab has changed me because it's changed my opinions about everything. Because I now think that reality is generated based on the electromagnetic field of your heart. And that energy cannot be, you can't lie about it. I mean, you can say that you're happy or whatever, but unless you truly are, until your heart is actually singing, you won't trip the wire.
Mm-hmm.
Because the thing is this, you think people in general, me included, think, well, I can't be a filmmaker or a writer because it would be way hard and there'd be so much competition. So you kind of build a wall of like, that's not probable or possible. But the weird thing that I've noticed that's happening is that if you identify why you're here and you get excited and you allow yourself to take a first step, something actually happens. And it's what all the hippies keep saying. I'm like a scientist. I'm like, you hippies are crazy, but they're actually right, because they talk about alignment and frequency. So when your frequency is clear, you are clear about who you are. And hopefully the people around you are also clear about who you are. Know thyself, right? That's what Socrates said, and all these people, right? So once you know who you are and you don't apologize anymore, then experiences can come to you more easily. Like it's ease and grace. I'm like, it's not ease and grace. I work hard for this. And then I was like, oh yeah, it's ease and grace, because I'm starting to hit the tripwire. And I meet people that levitate. I mean, just absolutely crazy things are happening to me now because I've leaped off the mountain. And it's kind of like the Avatar movie, you know, where they get on that soul braid with the horse that's going to fly them. It's a scary thing to listen to the whisper that is inside of you. But once you say yes to it, truly, and it doesn't have to manifest right tomorrow, but you will start to realize that something happens. And it is the most miraculous, beautiful, loving experience that makes me feel like that is the only reason why we're here on earth. And Robert Edward Grant says the same thing. He said the way we get to heaven on earth, the way we get to the new earth is through this, is through each of us getting real with ourselves. And that was the core finding of the Purpose Lab. It was, purpose isn't something you chase, it's something you find when you stop pretending.
Let me ask you a
I like
question.
that.
How do you think that grace plays a role in finding your purpose? Because I can only talk from my experience in my physical human body. Once you have that grace that has come to you and you can't unsee it anymore, the heart radiance and the frequency and the love that is out there, uh, uh, present in anything and everything and always, you're kind of then going backwards, or at least I did, and went, what happened to me? Why did it happen to me? And by what grace did it happen to me? Because while I was looking for it, a specific something, we all look for our purpose. Is it what comes first, the chicken or the egg? Is it my pursuit of finding my purpose, or is it God's grace really allowing me to find it? Because a lot of people might be chasing it or trying to find it, but they never can, they never will. And so I'm super, super excited about your scientific approach to actually finding your purpose.
No, it's not. That is not my opinion exactly. That God gives you know that graces you with your purpose. I think that everyone has a purpose that is very unique to them, and it was probably decided before they came. I'm not really sure, but I believe that if you ask for your purpose to be revealed to you, then you will get the answer. And that's another thing Robert Edward Grant says, like every question you pose to the universe will be answered. Okay. So that's whether you're meeting someone at the grocery store or whether you got the book, like we were just talking about that book, you know, you will get signs, but most people never ask. And that's what I think it was Will Arndt that said, the director of What the Bleep, I think he said to me, he's like, well, you know, if only 90%, you know, don't find their purpose, because a lot of people aren't even looking for it.
Yeah.
You get
Great
so
point.
dumbed down that it's just like your inner child knows what they want. Probably until you're 7, you probably know but you've been so crushed at that point, because humans want to belong. There's two things that children have. They want to belong and they want to be themselves and express themselves. But at some point that turns over and they would rather belong than be themselves. And that's what we have to do later in life, is to really take away all of the probabilities, which are wrong, because probabilities are only if your heart's not on fire. If your heart's on fire, crazy miracles happen. Like there's a girl, you know, that wants to be an astronaut, and she's just like, this is a girl from Morocco, and she's gonna go. She was like, you know, one of the 3 that was paid, you know. So I've realized that it's just really important to have this conversation somehow. And this is one of the things, the patterns that we saw. If you don't have the conversation with yourself somehow, you will get things that will happen to you. Like you'll get fired. You will experience some sort of calamity or loss, or maybe an experience of awe. So that was the first stage. A lot of people hit a wall. They either were so bored they couldn't do it anymore, or something happened that their soul was like, don't miss this. Because if this is the point of life, is to figure out what's unique about you. Michael Beckwith says, everybody's here to reflect and reveal the infinite nature of the universe in only the way that they can.
Nice.
Right?
Yeah. You know, and one thing that came up for me when you're sharing this, there's 2 things. One, you know, whatever you ask, you'll get an answer for. The important thing is to listen, you know, and not kind of get in the way and start getting in your head about the answer at some point, because some people ask questions, they get the answer and they don't hear it, or they don't want to hear it, or want to accept the answer is one. And when you talked about, you know, up until the age of 7 for children, it's one of the things in all the work I've done and stories I've heard of, you know, some of the super successful people in whatever field that they're in, they kind of find it at a young age. And, you know, instead of coming into it in their later years, because they have to do all this work to unpack and unravel themselves, they know that I love music, and they can start playing or whatever that is, and they become a great musician because all of a sudden they don't waste 20 years figuring it out. And I think it's really important to be able to, you know, I don't have children, but if I did, I'd be nurturing all of that as at their young ages, whatever they're interested in, to make sure they have all the tools to follow what lights them up, you know?
Yeah, because when it lights you up, you break all the rules, right?
Mm-hmm.
It takes on a life of its own, and pretty soon you're in that adventure. So I'm a recovering people pleaser. So a lot of it was like, oh, I want to be of service. I'll do this to help the world because I know the world needs this. But that's not gonna cut it. This has to be an inner outer situation where it is really lighting you up as well. Like, this is what you want to do. And a lot of people that solve their own problems, like they, you know, had trauma, so they create a system to deal with trauma, or they didn't have someone to teach them music, so they create a way to learn music, you know. So people solve their own problems sometimes, and then it kind of overflows outwardly. But I don't think you can start by just saying, oh, because energy doesn't lie. So if it's not truly something that lights you up, it's not gonna stick over time. And that's another thing that we've realized, is that a lot of people that we interviewed had very successful careers. Like one guy's an NFL player, you know, even humanities team Steve, you know, he's like doing these $1 million deals and everything like that. But then he got the message that he felt empty, because we want love and belonging. And we think money and fame is going to get us there. But then we don't like doing that thing. And so that's really not it. That's not going to feed our soul. That's not going to give us happiness in the long term. And so both of those individuals had to come back to actually, what is it in them, right? So you really have to stop caring about what anybody says. That's one thing. And the second thing is, a lot of people like Deirdre and Michael Beckwith, for example, they were given, their soul asked them to do something they had no idea how to do at all. Deirdre, they were like, oh, you're going to be a healer. And she's like choked on her food practically. She's like, I don't know how to do that. I'm a dancer. And that's another thing you mentioned. You, Vincent, Jenna, who we interviewed, he was like, I want to be an actor. I do not want to be a healer. I do not want to be woo-woo. Like, take me out of this. It's no. And he said no for so long that finally he could not stop saying no. Because when he started healing, he'd have people lined up out the door. A lot of the people that have gone through the Purpose Lab, they put out the tiniest website, the tiniest flyer, and all of a sudden clients are coming to them. It's because they're coherent with their truth, right? They're honest with themselves. So yeah, you don't have to know how to do something for that to be what your soul is whispering you to do. Because you're going
How
to
always shows up, right?
You're going to learn. It's going to show you how you're going to get there. And everything you've done up until then is perfectly preparing you for that thing. But we want everyone to fly off this cliff, so to speak, because that's where you sit back. I mean, they say like the petal lotus is where you're just like, you're so in awe of the beauty and the synchronicities of the world that you can barely move. And when you're on purpose, you experience synchronicities because it's meaningful to you. To you, Marc, that's meaningful. And the reality is a meaning-making machine. So if you don't care about your job, or you don't care about the people you're with, you don't care about your partner, or you're this or you're that, you got to make changes because it's not right for you. It's not right. And once you do, you'll start to see all the ease and grace, just like almost effortless. And you're like, whoa, because reality wants to please you. It wants to nurture your unfolding, your enlightenment.
Well, I love everything you're saying, and you resonate some of my thoughts and words and experiences very much. So thank you for that, for the reminders that lets me know I'm still on my path. And I love that what you said, energy doesn't lie.
That's
powerful statement for sure.
Yeah, because I mean, we're all in this conscious living, so we know all this. But yeah, your subconscious mind has a lot of energy, thoughts, feelings, emotions, and those are going to hijack everything all the time. So when you look at your life and the results of what you have, it's the sum total of all your beliefs, right? And so sometimes we think we believe something, but in the subconscious, we don't really believe. And that's what Vince and Jenna talks a lot about. It's like, if you lack self-confidence, which I did my whole life, so I must be supposed to be helping people with their self-worth and things like that, your soul won't even tap you on the shoulder and be like, this is what you're doing, because you don't have any confidence in order to take that first step. So the pattern is this. Here's the pattern that we discovered. The first step is chaos, right? Disruption, collapse, things fall apart, or you have an experience of awe. And then the second stage is deep listening. You are so undone by your situation that you start to listen. It's like, when the doctors, no doctor can fix you. So you start going to like the crazy doctors and you're like, okay, I'm really open ears because I've tried everything, right? So people listen differently in this time, and you're not supposed to hurry it. A lot of people just glue their life back together. They get the duct tape and they're gluing it back together louder and faster than before. They get the new job, the same job, the whole thing. It just, again. But some people stop and they listen. They listen to their dreams. They write. They meditate. They ask for a sign A lot of people get help from the other side. That's another thing that completely surprised me. Once they get the whisper of what their ego screaming, their soul just whispered, oh, you're supposed to be a healer or whatever the thing is. And they're like, oh, this just happened to me. The whisper was, you got to break up with your boyfriend, move out of your house. And I was like, you've got to be kidding me. But I knew that's what I had to do to be in alignment with my life. But I was like, no, that's chaotic. Like, how much I got to find another place. Like, how am I going to, like, all the stuff came up, right? You don't want it. You want to run the other way. And then my landlord was like, oh, I'm selling the house. You got to move. And then I was like, oops, like the decision got made. So then I was like, crap. And so then I did make the choices. And so the third stage, which most people never get to, is where you decide to listen to the whisper. It's more dangerous to not listen to that tiny whisper telling you to do something you have no idea to do. There's no guarantee of success. You don't know how to be a writer. You don't know how to be a filmmaker. It's telling you you have no idea. You got to listen to that crazy voice. Rather, it becomes more scary to not listen to that than to deal with the chaos of the change that it's asking for. And the fourth stage is where you finally, you decide to act on that. The third stage is decision to act. And this can go slow. You don't have to quit your job right away. You don't have to move out. You don't have to break up right. You just take it as slow as you want. Just like little in the background on the weekends, you're studying whatever, mechanics or whatever you're doing, right? You're keeping your job, whatever you're doing. And then the fourth stage is taking that first baby step. And that's where you need courage. Courage was the one quality that almost every single one of these 100, the pattern came out. You got to have courage for step 4, because that's the baby steps where nobody's celebrating, nobody's showing up for you, nobody's coming to your Zooms, you don't know how to do anything, but you are trusting that inner thing. And then in stage 5, the fruits start to bear. And you realize that solving your own problem actually helps that other girl next to you. And you're like, cool. And they go, oh, thanks for doing that. Like, you helped me too. And you go, wow. Right. And then the last stage, the 6th stage, is where you stop trying to achieve. You are not trying to achieve, prove something, accomplish something. You just are that thing. You just become that kindness or whatever you're doing. And the 7th stage is where you cycle back through that, because you're going to make adjustments. The world is changing so fast. Everyone right now is being called on a mission. So tune in, right? And the only person that can give you the mission is inside of you, right? Or God, or your higher power, whatever, or your grandma you're talking to, whatever, right? It's something that's not here physically that you need to tap into, because that's the only really person that can understand and verify what it is you're getting. It's scary, but the rewards are life-changing, and you will help other people. And like someone living their purpose, they're unstoppable, and they are like dominoes in the world.
Mm-hmm.
There is something that I want to talk into, and that is, once you've found your purpose, the well-being of other people is so deeply rooted within you that it becomes inseparable. And so when I hear you talk right now, Zenka, over the last 20 minutes, and you're sharing, I can hear complete authenticity. I can hear truth. There is no ego attached to it. There is the willingness for you to put forth your information and your wisdom and your knowledge for the betterment of other people. That's what I'm hearing. That is really the truth behind, or the energy of your words and the energy of your being. And so once you've reached your once you discovered your purpose, is it always benevolent? It seems to be that way because we all want to help other people to maybe have the same experience than us, and then it becomes a little bit of a mind game, and because then we're falling into the ego and we start comparing. But I can see that benevolent force behind this. I don't want to use the word waking up process because, yeah, in a certain way, it is a waking up process to your purpose. But there is this massive, massive, beautiful, beautiful, benevolent force behind it, moving this all forward. And simply being the observer of that also fills you with so much gratitude, to be able to see it and witness it and be alive in this time and space here on this planet.
And Michael, I just want to say thank you for bringing up authenticity, because I think it's such an important part of, the human experience, to be your authentic self. And, I can speak for myself in terms of a number of work we've done in terms of, workshops, meditations, group work, plant medicine work, and things of that nature. When people have a safe space where they know they can be their authentic self, it's where magic happens. And it's that authenticity, because you're not trying to impress anyone. You're not afraid of what people are going to say or be judged or anything. You're just speaking your truth and being, your authentic self. Like you were talking, Zenka, that, 0 to 7 age group, kids, they're not looking to be people pleasers in that sense in the same way that they are as they get older. When they're looking for acceptance, there's a more authenticity. And I think that's what we need to come back to as a, whole for humanity. There's a lot of people who are authentic, there's no question. And I think it's really important that even more people find a way to be able to let go of the preconceived BS, belief systems, and whatever that is, the need for acceptance, and really be their authentic selves. And people respond to that, because that BS bullshit meter, picks up if people aren't being authentic. Like you were talking, Michael, about,